yesterday, big day in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson had his press conference celebrating the 5-year, $260 million contract, $185 million guaranteed, richest contract in NFL history. And I thought it was interesting because Lamar had this to say. He talked about how teams did, in fact, reach out to him during this process after the Ravens placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on him back in early March. And he said, though, he kind of remained focused on sticking with Baltimore. But here's Lamar in his own words at the press conference, and I want to get your reaction after we play this clip here of Lamar Jackson yesterday.
With you, I really didn't care for other teams, really. I just really wanted to get something done here. Like, I wanted to be here. It was like, man, okay, other teams cool, but I want to be a Raven. Like, I said something 2018, I think it was April 26th, if I'm not mistaken. And I meant that. I'm standing on that until I get it done. So I really wanted to get this done before anything, before my time up and branch off somewhere else. I really want to finish my career here and win the Super Bowl here. So that's what I meant.
You buying that one after all the ruckus of the past 3 months between Lamar and the Ravens?
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is, but he did get a really good contract. I mean, when you break down what he got in year one, he got $80 million in year one compared to what Jalen Hurts got, $60. Now, year two, it kind of closes the gap a little bit. Hurts is going to end up with 102, and Jackson got 112. But I think this contract went along the same lines. Now, you can't use the Deshaun Watson contract in terms of cash flow as an example because his money's all guaranteed. So does it really matter when you get the money? It's all guaranteed. So cash flow is important when you don't have the fully buttoned up guaranteed deals. So, and what you try to do on these 5-year deals is try to put as much money in the first 3 years as you possibly can. For example, Lamar's got $156 million in his first 3 years that he's going to earn. Russell Wilson had 150. Jalen Hurts has 153. So that's really where the bulk of the money is, whereas Daniel Jones is only going to earn 112, and then he becomes a free agent after year 4. So I think to me, this contract is more readily available for Herbert and for Burrow because it's different than the Hurts contract and the way the money is spread and how it's handled. Now, I haven't seen the average cap per year. That hasn't come through yet. So we haven't seen the contract in its entirety to see, because the Hurts contract really is very team-friendly for the cap in terms of the first few years.
I was listening to the press conference yesterday, and Lamar Jackson, he was talking about how he had to put on like the agent cap and wear the business hat when he was doing this because famously Lamar Jackson does not have representation. And he was asked about like how does he do that as a player, and he talked about how, hey, like I knew that I could not be sensitive going into this, and I knew that like what is done in the business side of things is different than how they actually feel about me. And so I thought it was really, I kind of applaud Lamar Jackson. Like we knew that most times guys have agents so that they can just figure that stuff out. They don't have to hear what's being said in all the negotiations. But Lamar was the face of it. He was representing himself, and he knew the proper mindset going in of, all right, I can't take things personally. This is all just business, but ultimately we're going to try to get this business done, despite the fact that he scrubbed his social media and didn't really want to be with the Ravens and kind of ask for a trade request.
But really, when you break his contract down, Femi, I mean, he got $112 million upon signing, and he's going to earn $7.5 million in year one. Okay, and so he lowered his cap number to $22 million. So. And then after year two, his guaranteed salary is $15 million, and that's it. Then he has no more guarantees after that. So, now the contract, the paragraph 5 start to go up. But I thought he did a good deal. I mean, his cap number is $22 million this year. They picked up $10 million. Next year it goes back up to $33 million. But they voided years. They put 2 added years on this that'll void. The largest base salary of this contract is in year 26 and 27, which is $51 million of paragraph 5. That tells me the Ravens fully intend to try to go back to him after 3 years and say, okay, here's where we are. Here's where we are. Because, if they decide to move on from him after 3 years, it's fairly easy to get out of this deal.
Well, in essence, then it's not a fully buttoned up deal, but it almost sounds like this is a pretty
it's a 3-year
great deal.
It's really, when you break it down, it's because he's got $100 million of this 260 sitting in year. Basically, he's got more than $100 million. Let's say he's got $102 million sitting in years 4 and 5 of the deal. It's a 3-year deal. It's a 3-year deal, basically, that he took, and he got $112 million of it, $112.5 million at signing. And next year, he's got all of his paragraph 5 guaranteed. So the first 2 years, and then year 3, he becomes a little bit out there on an island. Now, it would cost a lot of money to get rid of him, but they could trade him at that point. Now, it has a no-trade clause in it.
Yep.
Right? So he's got that guaranteed.
He's got the no-trade clause and also the no-tag clause as well. So if they played out the 5 years, it couldn't be like, oh, we're going to franchise tag you again and ring around the rosy we go. So he is at least protected in that regard. But it almost feels like Lamar set himself up for those 3 years that you talked about to then go ahead and get another bite at the apple as well after those 3 years, where he's still really young. I mean, he's 26 years old. 3 years from now, he's 29 in the prime of his career. There's a good chance he gets another big contract afterwards.
Right, and he's probably going to get it within this contract because his cap number in 26 is $74 million.
Whew.
So, I mean, they're going to have to redo that deal at that point, and when he'll trigger in an option, because he's got a $72 million signing option guarantee, that will get triggered in.
And we'll talk some win totals, obviously, coming up later on. The NFL schedule comes out less than a week from now. Very excited for that date next Thursday, but how do you feel about Baltimore now that Lamar is buttoned up? He's in. He's got his deal.
They got an A for the draft, Femi. They got an A for. I mean, how could I not feel good about Baltimore? They got an A. Everything's going good for them. They got an A because they got an A for the draft because they signed Lamar. I mean, isn't that impressive? Look, I think it's going to be. I don't know how good do you think Baltimore's going to be on defense. Look, here's the reality about Baltimore. They win games when Lamar plays quarterback. Mm-hmm. Say whatever you want about the guy. They win games when he plays quarterback.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.